21st of March, Rabbi Furst, Pierke Avos, Pesach.
Right. Okay. So we just completed the paragraph that Vireu Osano Mitzrim, and they did badly to us, the Mitzrim, Vayininu, and they oppressed us. Yitnu Aleim Avodah Kasha, and they placed upon us a difficult work. And now the Hagada is extrapolating on the pasuk. Vireu Osano Mitzrim. The Mitzrim, they did bad with us. Now, what was that? Commotion Emor, as it is stated in the pasuk, says in the pasuk, Pavah, lo, come, we should deal wisely with wisdom with these people. 10 years, perhaps they'll increase, and they've been increasing all along anyway. It'll happen when there would be a war. The Nosef Gam al, also an ally will join along with our enemies, and they'll wage war against us. For Alumin Arts, and they'll go out from the land. So the ostensible reason that the Torah gives for the shibud, and there happens to be, I've mentioned maybe this at least once before, perhaps. There happens to be historical basis for this. Don't think that as you mentioned, Roy, it's not, there were political and military reasons for this statement. And as I'll explain, happens the Furst Midrashim explain that when Yaakov Avinu was going to be buried, and you know that how the Torah explains how Yosef and all his brothers came up out of Mitzrayim with the Levaya for Yaakov Avinu, to bring Yaakov Avinu to the Maras Machpelah, and all the inhabitants of Canaan saw the great the Jews and all the Mitzrim, because all the Mitzrim came as well. And it was a great, tremendous procession. It was very, very moving. And it came time when everyone came. The Bnei Yishmael came, all the people in Canaan came, the Bnei Esav came. Everyone came to the Levaya to give final respect to Yaakov Avinu. He was very well respected throughout the world, of course, without. And when it came to Esav came. He came with his family, and it was in his tribe. And it even says there that Esav actually gave a hesped. He gave a hesped for Yaakov Avinu. And now after the hespeding were over, now it came time to bring Yaakov Avinu into the Maras Machpelah. That was his final resting place. So at that point, Esav protested. He said, I'm the Bechor. That's my place to be buried. I'm supposed to be buried in the Maras Machpelah. It's not Yaakov's place to be buried in the Maras Machpelah. And so Yosef, who was obviously the leader and the spokesman for the Jewish people at the time, he explained to Esav, listen, this was sold. You sold your Bechor, you sold your rights to the Maras Machpelah, you sold many things, and that's the way it is. So Esav says, well, where's the document? Where's the shtar? Where's the deed that the Maras Machpelah was sold? It was sold. So they explained that it was left back in Mitzrayim. They left that back in Mitzrayim. So Yosef told Naphtali, who was very fast on his feet, run back to Mitzrayim and to retrieve the document, and therefore settle the dispute. In the meantime, a skirmish broke out between the Bnei Esav and the Bnei Yaakov, and they were fighting. There was fighting. A war erupted, and Hush Ben Dan, who was, as his name indicates, Hush, he was deaf, so he didn't understand what was going on. They left him to guard the children, the young children, and the rest of the brothers went into the battle. And there was blows, there was hand combat, and he was wondering what's going on. There's supposed to be a Leviah, not a war. So they explained to him that Esav is protesting the entrance of Yaakov Avinu into the Mars Machpelah. So that's what's delaying the Leviah. So Cush Ben Dan didn't think twice. He picked up a big mallet and ran straight into the midst of the war and into the skirmish, and went straight to Esav and walloped in his head and knocked out his 2 eyeballs from his head. You would have saw this. You would have took his sword and sliced off the head of Esav, and he died there on the spot. And the head of Esav landed in the lap of Yaakov. And when Esav was dead, that put an end to the skirmish, and the war ended. And they took prisoners, and they brought Yaakov Avinu into the Mars Machpelah. He was buried there. Son of Esav. And they took him captive, and they brought him back to Mitzrayim and held him there in jail. They held him there in jail in Mitzrayim. And
who did they take? Who did they take back?
Eliphaz.
Oh, Eliphaz. Okay.
He was a good guy, wasn't he?
Well, he was the son of Esav. He wasn't the greatest guy, but he was the son that Esav told to chase after Yaakov and to kill him. Right? And Yaakov Avinu explained to him that his ani is nikshab kames, a person who's poor is considered to be like he's dead. So he said, listen, rather than kill me, just take all my possessions, leave me with nothing, and you'll also fulfill your father's word.
Oh, that's right. He's not such a good guy.
No.
No.
Look, with a father like Esav, you can't really expect it to turn out too great. But so Eliphaz was held captive in Mitzrayim. So for many decades, could be even centuries, there was wars, constant wars between Egypt and the Bnei who allied with Bnei Esav. And Bnei Esav and the Bnei Ishmael would constantly try and free their leader, Eliphaz, who was held captive in Mitzrayim. So during one of these wars, the Mitzrayim were having a very difficult time against the Bnei Esav and the Bnei Ishmael. So they called for the reserves of the Jews, and they asked the Jews to join into the battle. So when the Jews were advancing to the battle, the Egyptians withdrew, right, leaving the Jews by themselves on the battlefield against Bnei Esav and Bnei Ishmael. And the Jews, miraculously, Baruch Hashem, they were outnumbered, but nevertheless, they won the battle. And nevertheless, they were very upset with the Mitzrayim, who were really their allies. Or at least they thought so up until then. And they thought they were their allies. But then on the way back from the battle, they started killing the Egyptians as well. So when this occurred, right, this is when this statement was made. They say, well, we have to be careful now, because first of all, they realized that they double-crossed the Jews. They called them into battle to try and be reserves and to help in the battle. And the Mitzrayim withdrew, leaving them on the battlefield by their lonesome. And that was a very great sakana. And miraculously, as we said, they were saved. Nevertheless, the Jews, because they were double-crossed, felt that they had a rightful choice to kill the Mitzrayim, who double-crossed them. So when they returned to Egypt, now became a national question as to what to do with the Jews. Because why? Because the Jews, they claimed, and rightfully so, they say, look, the Jews, who are they closer to? To us, the Egyptians, or to Bnei Esav and Bnei Ishmael? After all, they're brothers to Esav and they're cousins to Ishmael. So they really, logically speaking, should, if they're going to come to anybody's aid in the time of war, they'll come to the aid of those relatives that, even though they exist, they live in Canaan. Nevertheless, now that things have changed, we have to now think of what can be done with them, because maybe they're going to join in against us with our enemies and do war against us. So that's the political and military background to this pasuk here.
Hmm.
Okay.
So
It wasn't simply anti-Semitism. It was a well-founded excuse, but nevertheless, they used it as an excuse.
So I have a couple of comment/questions. I heard the story that you told about Esav's head slightly differently. I heard that it rolled into the cave, and that it was actually it was left there. That, in other words, his head was buried in the cave. And I heard a vort on that said that because he did the mitzvah of kavod avim so perfectly, he merited to have his head, only his head, because that was the part that was doing the thinking, and that understood the halachas of kavod avim. So his body, which was doing all the sinning, was not in there, but his head was.
Well, first of all, he wasn't mechavid his mother. He wasn't only mechavid his father, because his mother had no koach of bracha. So he wasn't mechavid kibbut aim, only mechavid av. And also, according to Rabbi Rucham, the Mishkiach and Mir, the head couldn't have rolled because it was cut off from the eyebrows up. It was not possible. The eyes of Esav that sinned, and the mouth of Esav that sinned, and the ears of Esav that sinned, and the of Esav that sinned, and the nose of Esav that sinned. Not possible that Esav could be brought into the Morasa Machpelah. But nevertheless, the head, the Makshavas, and whatever Makshavas he might have had, he was Zoicha for that part of his body to be buried there. As a matter of fact, it's a terrible oinish. Terrible oinus. It's terrible. It's actually, it's not a zechus at all. The body, if you know anything about the laws of kavura, burial, the Jewish body has to be buried together in one piece. And if there are shalom limbs, that's why if you ever notice, especially this organization Zaka, in these terrible shalom, they're very actively busy trying to locate all the limbs of all the various different bodies, because it's a very big mitzvah that the body should be buried as much as whole as possible. So the fact that his body was not buried with part of his head was a tremendous onish for him.
I see. Okay, that's one comment. The other one was that I heard that that Yishmael did tshuva at the end of his life.
Right.
But you're saying that the Bnei Yishmael were making war against the Egyptians. Is that consistent with his doing tshuva?
Yeah, I think even, I'm not sure if it's Rashi, but if it's not Rashi, there's another portion that Ishmael himself did tshuva. That we see from the pasuk, that it says when it came time for the burial of Avraham Avinu, and it said that Yitzhak and Ishmael buried him. The Yitzhak went first, right? And that if you look at the Rashi there, let me see if I can get the pasuk. 1 second. Let me see. Should be at the end of Parshas Chai Sarah, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, for the burial of Abraham?
Right.
Chai Sarah.
Let's see.
I see it, it talks about Ishmael here.
Yeah. Yeah, pasuk test. Yikru also Yit Ishmael Banov. Elmar Samatay, pasuk test.
I see it, yeah. His sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah.
Right,
Rashi says, from here we see that Ishmael repented and let Yitzchak walk ahead of him out of respect, even though Ishmael was older.
right,
This is the good old age about which was said about Abraham in the preceding verse.
right. Now, there is a, I have to find it, but there is a comment made here that Ishmael himself did Jew, but his sons, his children's offspring didn't. But then I have to look around and see where that says that.
Ah,
I've heard that comment made before.
I see. And his wife was Egyptian, correct?
Keturah, Ishmael's wife, I believe so. Yeah, it says the pasuk says that his mother took him, gave him a wife from
Egyptian
Egypt.
wife, yeah.
If I'm not
Okay.
mistaken. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right, those are my two comments I wanted to make. Or questions.
Okay, yeah, good. I just wanted to explain basically that we shouldn't think that it was simple anti-Semitism that was motivating the Egyptians, but but again, there was, like as I said, there was a whole historical background and military um, concern here that was existing for where you could go from the time when figure out how long it was from the time that the Shibud began and from the time of Yaakov Avinu's burial. Could find that out, but but there was ground. It wasn't groundless. Just put it there. It wasn't groundless.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, because in general, look, in general, the Egyptians benefited from the Jewish presence there very much. There was no reason, really. I mean, that's the way it is with the, if you look into the historical, the Holocaust. I mean, there was, the whole German attitude. It wasn't for the religious, social um, propaganda that was waged against the Jews. Um, from economic perspective, there was no reason why they should have anything against the Jews. So the host countries always benefited very much from the Jews. That's part of the problem. That when they start benefiting from us, and we start getting too comfortable with them, so it has to be some type of a backlash to keep us as separate from the rest of the Goyim as possible. But yeah, okay, yeah. Let's continue. Go a little further. Let's see. Roy, did you want to continue a bit?
Look, where was I up to?
Okay. So that'll bring us to Vianu, comma, Shinema, the next paragraph.
Okay. V'anunu kama shene'amar yasamu alav sarei misim leman anoso v'siv lo sam vayaven arei mis kinos lefaro es pitsom v'es ramses. Okay, so and they afflicted us, as it says, They set taskmasters over them to oppress them. With their burdens. And I have a note here that says this word misim means shifting sands, on shifting sands.
Right, okay.
In order that they would build Pithom and Ramses as treasure cities for Paro.
Right. Okay.
Vayitenu Aleinu Avodah Kasha Kema Shene'amar Vayal Vidu Mitzrayim Es B'nei Yisrael Bifarech. And they gave upon us hard work, or they imposed upon us hard work, as it says. The Egyptians subjugated the children of Israel. Bifarech. I have a note that says it was hard with a soft mouth.
That's how it started off, right? Right.
Right. It started off with a soft mouth, and then it got hard afterwards.
Right.
That was what I was saying yesterday, that I had heard that, there was a volunteer project, and Paro was the first one to dig the first shovelful of dirt.
Right.
But then Paro and the Egyptians all kind of faded away, like you were saying, they faded away in the war. They faded away in the work also, and then it turned into slavery over a period of time.
Right. Right. That's one reason why Shevet Levi was not included in the shibud. They were not subjugated at all. They had no work to do, no oppression to bear, because when it first came, that first initial call for all loyal patriotic Egyptians, they enlist in the civil works that were taking place at the time. The B'nai Levi said, no, that's not for us. Our job is to sit and learn. So since they never entered into the shibud, so they weren't included in any of the terrible things that were happening. That's why Moshe and Aaron could move freely through the palace of Pharaoh, right? That they weren't subjugated as the rest of the Bnei Yisrael were. Okay, all right, good. Maybe it might be a good place to stop. So I guess we're starting here, Ramses, all right? And so we're in Nitzak El Hashem. That's where we'll pick up tomorrow, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
That's right.
Thank you very much. See you tomorrow.
Okay, see you.